So here's a bitter pill to swallow. That easy life that many of us daydream of, kind of think about a lot. Well, it doesn't really exist. Because over the last year, I've been thinking about this question a lot, right? Because I work in healthcare. My name is Christian. I'm an occupational therapist. And I work with a lot of patients who's going through rough times. I work with coworkers who are feeling burnt out. And essentially, I started to ask this question is suffering really just all a part of life, right? Or is there some sort of way that we can live life without having to go through all the challenges and the difficulties? And the answer that I've come up with is no, because suffering and challenges, they are essentially what brings meaning to life. Because without it, then all our achievements, all the things that we've done, is not really going to have a lot of attachment or meaning to them. Like, just kind of take a little bit of a moment and think back for all the great things that you achieve in your life, right? Whether it may be your job, a relationship, any sort of thing that you're proud of, you've likely went through a period of overcoming, really huge difficulties or challenges that actually made the accomplishment worth it. So the problem here is that a lot of people are so overwhelmed by the difficult things in their life, by the stresses of everything, finances, health, relationships, whatever it is. They're so stressed about all these challenges that they end up always thinking like, what if I could live a life not having to worry about anything? What if I could live a life not having to take on any new challenges? It is that very thought, that very act that actually adds more suffering and challenges into their lives. Challenges are essentially what brings meaning to life. And you can kind of think of life as a video game. For example, I'm a huge nerd, so I like playing video games. But essentially, if you're playing a game and that game doesn't really have any sort of challenge, right? There's no goal to pursue, then it is very quickly going to get boring. You're not going to feel very motivated to keep on playing it. That's the whole point, because a lot of people approach life this way. They approach life not wanting to take on new challenges because they're so overwhelmed by the things that they have to do already, your jobs and, et cetera, et cetera. So they constantly daydream like, what if I could just get $5 million, out of the blue, all my problems would disappear. What if I could go on a vacation and never have to work a day in my life? They daydream of all these scenarios and they dream of a life not having to take on any challenges. But because of that, they stay stuck at where they're at. Because at the end of the day, taking on challenges is what pushes you to the next level, right? The question here is, why do so many people feel burnt out taking on challenges? And through my research, through my observations, through my experimentation with myself, the answers that I've come up with is because we don't take on challenges that we've chose for ourselves. Instead, the challenges that we often take on are challenges that are forced upon us. I know this is kind of I'm going to bring you through and walk you through this, right? So I want you to imagine your job, right? A lot of people are working jobs which are very tiring, very stressful. I work in healthcare, it's very demanding. In fact, as I'm filming this right now, I just got back from work. It's actually Christmas Day. I had to work. A lot of people, of course, enjoying the holidays. But essentially, a lot of people think that jobs are very, very difficult, right? But I'm here to argue that your job is probably something that is easy. The reason it's easy is because it's something that you have very little risk of failure. You've done it a lot of times. You know the whole routine already, right? Somebody's going to tell you exactly what you need to do, what you need to accomplish. So in the large scale of things, right? Your job is something that is easy. Something that is difficult, something that is a challenge, is something that comes with the risk of failure. You're not really sure what you need to do. You need to seek the solutions to that. And those are the things that are difficult to do, right? So people are essentially so overwhelmed with my jobs, doing the same thing again and again, that they're not willing to take on new challenges, which means they stay stuck at a certain level, right? So all these stresses, like, we want to work a lot for money because we got to pay off the bills. We want to go on vacations so we can take a break from our stressful lives. All these things are essentially overwhelming us. All these challenges, at least, that we feel that we're going through are overwhelming us, that we're not willing to take on new challenges that's going to help us grow. Things like, improving on our skills, our education, our knowledge, things like that. And this is something that I've personally been, trying to improve at, because work is a lot, my relationships, my finances, all these things are things I'm constantly trying to improve on. But because I'm so tired with it, I have to force myself sometimes and find a way to find different opportunities, or at least find the motivation in order to pursue more skills and knowledge, right? And at least the solution that I've come up with is that people have to really start to pursue their own challenges based on their own interests. And the secret to that is motivation. There's a really cool experiment. I think it was done in 1971. It's by this psychologist named Edward Deci. It's called the Soma Cube experiment, something like that. But just kind of simply break it down for you guys. Essentially, these experiments studied the effects of motivation on people, right? So there was this group of people, they were split into two different groups, and they were asked to solve something called a Soma Cube. It's similar to a Rubik's Cube. But essentially, the first group was told that they would be paid money to actually solve the puzzle. Whereas the second group was simply told that you have to solve the puzzle, but no reward was promised to them, right? And very interestingly, the people that were paid when they were observed on their breaks, right? Like when they were on breaks from the experiments, they didn't really feel motivated to keep on working on the project. But the people that weren't paid, they remained curious to continue working on the puzzle. What was so interesting about this is that money is actually not a very, very sustainable motivation. And that's why a lot of people feel burnt out in their job, because they're simply working a job in order to pay their bills. But I guess the study or the understanding that comes from these experiments is that motivation is really separated into two different things, right? There's extrinsic motivation, which is the first one, and then there's intrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation is where you're motivated by external factors. You want the rewards, you want the money, you want the accomplishment of stuff. And when that is not in the pipeline, when that is not given as a reward for doing the thing, you don't feel motivated to do so, right? So when we go to work, we feel like we have to force ourselves to do so, but we don't really want to do it if there's no sort of reward. Intrinsic motivation is motivated by internal factors. It's because you're genuinely curious about the thing. You want to, really enjoy the process, really grow as an individual. And that is the kind of motivation that we need to create a lot more in our lives. Because when we approach any sort of challenges, we're not intrinsically motivated to do the challenge. Like if you're doing something and all you're thinking about is the money, when there's no money, you're not going to want to do it. But if you're doing a challenge and you're genuinely interested in doing it, learning about it, enjoying the process, then you're more likely to keep on working on it, which means you're going to grow and level up, right? So what I'm trying to get at here is that challenges are extremely important, but people approach it differently. We're so tired of taking on new challenges because human nature, we're just so used to taking the path of least resistance. We don't want to take on new challenges because we want the easy way out, because we're so overwhelmed already. But it's that very thought, that very act that keeps us stuck in the very first place. So at least for me, what I realized is that it's extremely important to have the self-awareness to realize what are your goals are and break it down into like, okay, if these are my goals, what do I need to do to start accomplishing it? And most likely you have a bunch of different things you want to do, like, okay, I want to start earning more on my job. I want to have more time to spend with my family. I want to make more money. I want to be more healthy. There's going to be all these different goals. And then you need to break it down into actual steps and solutions that you need to take on. Because now those are challenges that's actually going to motivate you to do so. You actually want to achieve it without anyone telling you that that's what you should be doing. And I want to get into how you can get started, because I think this video has gone on long enough already. I'm doing more of these one-take videos just to kind of share my thoughts, see how things go. But essentially, if you have a challenge that you're intrinsically motivated to pursue, best way to start is when it relates to yourself, health, wealth, relationships, your mental health, your own skills. These are things where you should actually pay attention to and come up with challenges that you really, really want to tackle. And once you've decided on the challenge that you are actually motivated to take on, the very first step and the easiest step to do so is to simply start seeking knowledge about it. I think so many people feel lost because they don't even take the step to start to seek the information that's available out there. I mean, we are so lucky to live in the information age right now. Like literally a click of the button, you can find anything. And if you can find any sort of information, that means you can master any single skill. I don't think a lot of us are aware how powerful this is because we're so, used to using the internet and social media as an entertainment tool. We don't think about it as an education tool. That's the huge thing. But once you kind of switch this mindset a little bit, knowing that you can use that little time that you spend on social media, on YouTube or whatever, and to start thinking about, okay, can I maybe listen to a podcast, watch an educational YouTube video, listen to, actually read an article, or even, all these different things that you can start to do to actually gain the knowledge. You can start to open your minds to new possibilities to actually accomplish a problem. And keep in mind, this is not a temporary thing. This is something that you constantly want to do. And if you keep on doing it over a long period of time, you will get closer to your goal. Always be aware that it is not simply about avoiding challenges. It's about finding the right challenge first and then seeking the solution through knowledge first. That's all you got to do. Eventually, you can start to take on actions and, et cetera, et cetera. But the very first step, at least, is to acknowledge like, okay, I got to do something with my life if I'm not happy with it. I can't just simply try to ignore the problems in my life. I can't just simply live an easy life. I have to take on challenges, but I don't feel motivated to do so. So I need to find the challenges that I actually care about. And once you find those challenges, simply start seeking information about it. Because if it is a challenge that you genuinely want to solve, you will automatically want to learn about it and want to solve it. So this is just a little bit message about challenges because, as we go into the new year, into 2025, I really encourage you to set some challenges that's going to feel a little uncomfortable to do. You don't want to live a life where you can just kind of stroll on by, take it easy, everything's comfortable, because it is when you live like that things start to stagnate. And we are in a period of our life, in our lives right now, where I feel like if you do not take on risk, if you do not try to achieve more, you will stay stuck. And then years down the line, you will start to look back and you're like, man, why didn't I take the leap? Why didn't I try to improve on things? Because there's a lot of people right now that are unhappy. And I want to tell you that the path to actually escaping that is to find challenges and actually take on them. Don't let people decide those challenges for you. You yourself have to decide it for yourself. That's about it. Thank you so much for watching. Do let me know down in the comments below if you like this kind of content. It's a little bit more raw. It's a one-take thing. Just my thoughts, my ideas. I work in healthcare for a long time. I've gone through a lot of experimentation myself in terms of self-development and all these kind of things. I know it can be a little corny sometimes, but it's something I'm passionate about. And I'm hoping to help as many people as possible, especially healthcare workers just like me. I know how hard you guys work. But at the same time, just because you're working hard doesn't mean you're actually growing at the same pace, essentially. There are certain things you need to do and understand in order to gain the benefits from it, and understanding how to take on the right challenges and changing your mindset about doing difficult things is one of those key components. So that's about it. Thank you so much for watching. Like the video if you like the video, and hit subscribe if you want to see more of these types of content. And that's about it. I'll see you around in the very next one. Later.